Hello and welcome to today's Wednesday Words, where I'll be talking about how to build your virtual presence. Hundreds of small screens, people in thumbnails. Some of them have turned off their camera and all you can see is a little black screen with their name on it. You're pretty convinced that they're doing something in the background. They're probably multitasking, writing an email, perhaps writing some notes for something else, or perhaps they're even on another meeting. I've even heard that, people being on two meetings at the same time. It's so frustrating. You want to share your messages. You've got important things to say, whether that's in a meeting or a presentation. And yet we find that people are increasingly more disengaged from the idea of going on a call and listening. And of course, in some ways, at the point that I'm recording this, life is pretty much back to normal after COVID. And in theory, we all love to have an in-person meeting or presentation. But there are lots of reasons why this may not be practical and may not happen. For example, you may not be in the office on the same day as your colleagues or other team members. It also practically may not be possible because you are based in different locations, even in different countries. So the reality of the virtual meeting or presentation is here to stay. And we need to find ways as the people who have important things to share, how to adapt what we're doing so that we can build up our virtual presence. So learn today in Wednesday Words how to do this, how to build up your virtual presence so that you can have the maximum connection with people and the maximum impact. First of all, I want to start with setup. Setup is so important, and it's something I think at the beginning of the pandemic, when people were doing a lot of virtual meetings for the first time, we thought about it a little bit more. But now, life has moved on, that perhaps we're not thinking about it so much, but it's important. It's part of how you come across and how your presence is coming through on the screen. So what is behind you? This is a really personal choice. And when it comes to backgrounds, it really comes down to individual choice, but also company choice sometimes. Sometimes there is a corporate culture as to what should be behind you. You can choose to blur your background. Clearly, you can get very creative with all sorts of virtual backgrounds. And in fact, there are many companies who have a selection of their branded backgrounds as well. Or you may choose to go natural, as I do. However, if you do go natural, of course, what is important, that is what's behind you is neat and tidy. It's clear, it reflects you, and you can choose how to add little touches. So for me, it's about my books, which are my communication and culture books, and also my plants, which are important to me to add a touch of green. So don't forget to always be mindful about what's behind you in virtual presence. The next point is lighting. So lighting is a really important point, because if people cannot see you, then you don't have that presence, no matter what else you do. So today, when I'm recording this, is a beautiful sunny day. So I have lots of lovely natural light. But I know that many of you are perhaps working with people in different time zones. So perhaps you need to be meeting people early in the morning or late at night when it's dark. So do make sure you maximize light. If you have the joy of having natural light, fantastic. Make sure it's coming from the front or from the side. And then think about what extra light you might just need, particularly if it's a dark day or it's winter. So for example, you can buy very cheap ring lights. And I have one, for example, just here on this side, which is my darker side, just to add a bit of extra light. So do think about this and plan for this. And then finally in setup, think about your rectangle. So this is the rectangle we live in. It's all that we see of the people on the screen. It's a bit of a shame because, of course, I do have a full body and I can communicate with my full body. But unfortunately, on the screen, we have to really think and work hard. So make sure that on the screen, you can see the head and the shoulders. So you can see my shoulders here. And make sure that you are using your eye line in line with the camera. So you can actually look like you're looking into the camera, which means people have the sense that you're talking to them, that you're trying to make eye contact with them. So, think about your presence in the rectangle as well. So that's the first part. That's all about your setup. So we have talked about background, we've talked about lighting, natural light and artificial light, and we've talked about filling our rectangle. The next section I want to talk about is energy. And this is so important, so critical about how we come out the screen and really connect with others and how they experience us. Let me give you an example of how this might be. So imagine you may be watching this video now, you've got a sense of what I'm doing and how I'm connecting with you. But let's imagine that I was creating a video about communication. And let's imagine that I was sitting down. So I'm currently standing. I was sitting down. And let's imagine that I decided to write out what I wanted to say and I was going to read it. So I'd be mostly looking down. I would be sitting down and my head would be forward like this. And I wouldn't necessarily be looking at you and connecting with you. How would this feel? Well, I'm sure that that very extreme example would kind of bring to life for you the point of energy. We need to have high energy in the virtual space if we want to build our presence and connect with others. I think there is an amazing TED talk that also illustrates this. So Amy Cuddy, if you look her up on TED.com, does an amazing talk around this idea of how our body language impacts our energy and how it comes across. But importantly, she also talks about how our body language impacts our confidence. So energy isn't just about what we're doing for others, it's about what we also feel inside and how that helps us feel confident and helps us feel strong in the moment. So a couple of specifics around this. If it's possible, I always recommend for talks, important meetings, that you stand, presentations as well, that you stand. And I stand for most of my client meetings and presentations and important meetings. So I'm standing right now. The important thing is I'm standing up straight. I do occasionally move my body, but the important thing is I'm not sort of to one side and I'm not bending down. I'm standing up nice and strong in my core. And that definitely gives energy. Now, I know that's not for everybody, and some people really dislike this idea. So if you choose to sit, of course, that's absolutely fine. But again, to build your virtual presence, you need to make sure that you are sitting up nice and straight, just like your grandmother told you. And make sure that your feet are flat on the floor so that you're really kind of strong and sitting kind of tall. And again, that can build your virtual presence. So that's what we've just covered is all about the energy and thinking about how you're going to get your energy across in the screen, through the screen. And then the final section I wanted to talk about today was about body language. Now, I've done a deep dive on communication through body language in a recent episode, and I'll put a link here. But a few reminders of the key points, particularly for the virtual space. So body language is even more important, I would argue, in the virtual space compared to doing presentations or meetings in person. Why? Well, you can probably see that I'm moving quite a lot, and that attracts your attention and keeps you focused. So really utilize your body language for maximum impact. Some examples that are particularly effective in virtual meetings and presentations. So first of all, you can lean forward slightly. I would do this occasionally for two reasons. One, when I'm listening, to show the other person that I'm listening carefully to what they have to say. The other reason that I would do it is to actually emphasize a key point that I'm about to share. So I'd lean forward and share that point. The other thing that you may notice is that I use my hands quite a lot. The important part of hand gestures in the virtual space is you need to bring them up. Usually when we're in person, we bring our hands down and they are more near below our chest and near our stomach. But actually in the virtual space, we only have this rectangle to play with. So we have to bring our hands up. And it can be a really great way to emphasize key points. But of course, the main thing is not to get too dramatic with your gestures. So that it becomes, you don't want to be an actor, but you do want to put on a real emphasis to your key points. And then smiling. You'll also notice that I smile quite a lot. I am generally quite a happy person, but beyond that, a smile is so important as that way to share your confidence, share your energy, and of course, to connect with the other person. And to do that, it's very simple. Make a smile on your face, but also look at the camera. That way, again, people feel like you're trying to connect with them personally and that you're looking into their eyes. So that section is really all about body language. So there you go. We've covered a number of different areas today about how to build your virtual presence. We've talked about setup. We have also discussed the importance of energy. And then finally, we've focused on body language and the impact of this for your virtual presence. I really do hope today has been a useful insight for you and to remind you how important your virtual presence is for how you're coming across to others in this space. I would love it if you could subscribe to make sure that you're receiving these Wednesday words, communication, skills and strategies in the future. And also because I share other resources, ideas and tips. So please follow this link and make sure you sign up to receive it every week into your inbox. And in the meantime, if you have any questions at all, please let me know. Drop me a line. I would love to hear your questions and comments. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk about your virtual presence on Wednesday Words. I'm Victoria Reynoldson, communication and culture coach, and I look forward to seeing you next time.